Okay, Joyce, it's you and me here. Joyce, when did you actually start in collies?
It was, I believe, 1963.
And what made you choose collies to breed?
We went to a collie show, and they were the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And so as soon as we got married, first thing we did was we got 2 collies.
Really? Now, I understand that you started over several times. Tell us about those early years.
Okay, about 3 times we would start over, and we would take a dog, and we would go to a dog show, and would look at our dog, and would look at the other dogs, and our dog wasn't as pretty as theirs. And rather than try to spend years breeding up, we would then place that dog in a home, and we would buy a better quality collie. And then we went through this again. That collie wasn't good enough, was not as pretty as the other dogs that were winning at the show, and so we started a 3rd time. And that time we went with Brandwin because we liked the elegance and the prettiness of the Brandwin, but we didn't like their temperament, and we didn't care for their movement. So we bred the pure Brandwin to Steve Field's pure Parader, and that's where Twin Creeks started.
And which dogs in particular did you use in the beginning?
Well, the dog that we bred to that Steve had at that time was Country Squire.
Okay, and what was he like?
He was like a dog's dog. He wasn't pretty and flashy and elegant like the Brandwin. He was more, what would be following the boy down the country road with the fishing pole. But he was exactly what we needed to complement what we needed in the dogs that we had.
And what was that?
Well, like I said, they were very elegant, but they weren't sound, and their temperament was not good.
Okay. So you started over 3 times, and then you got a little nick going. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. Did you show a lot at that point?
Well, we thought we were showing a lot, but nothing like what we did later. But that very first litter from Country Squire, we took the puppy to its first dog show, and it went best in sweeps in St. Louis. And we thought, this is what we want.
And who did that dog finish?
Champion Twin Creeks Cha-Cha.
Okay. When you were in your really active period, which lasted how many years, would you say?
31 years.
31 years. Okay. How many dogs on the average did you house?
Well, we did not count puppies until they were 6 months old because they were temporary. Until that time, we did not make our decision whether they were staying or not. So the adults we generally kept about 25 adults.
And how many litters a year did you average?
3 or 4 litters a year.
Okay. And you won Breeder of the Year a few times.
I'm not sure how many times.
I think it was 8.
Was it 8? Yeah. I never really was into the statistics. Like, I don't know how many champions my stud dogs are, because to me, it was the breeding and the training and the showing. So each show was like, starting all over again. Am I going to win this show? Is everybody going to like my dog this time? So I'm not real up on the statistics.
Yeah, I actually just handed out the statistics. If you'd like to read them, I'll share it with you later. Okay. Yes, you were Breeder of the Year 8 times.
Okay.
By the mid-1990s, and this information is courtesy of Gail Kay from her book, A Century of Collies. By the mid-90s, you had bred over 132 champions.
Wow. Wow.
So, how, there must have been some kind of formula or plan. I'm sure there was a plan. In this little write-up we have here, it says that the 1970s was a period of building. Now, what did that look like?
Well, when we were going to pick out who we were going to breed the bitch to, we would list the virtues of the male and of the bitch, and then the faults of each of them. And we never bred two faults to each other. If they had the same fault, they were eliminated, and we had to start looking over again. We were always, every time we made a breeding, we had something in mind that we had to correct. Because with each generation, you correct one thing, but you pick up something different. So then the next generation, you have to correct that fault.
What qualities and virtues did you find the most difficult to maintain and keep?
It wasn't really difficult to maintain because it was so important to us. The very first thing they had to have was expression. If they had everything else but didn't have expression, they were gone.
Okay.
So it was easy to keep because we always had it. We wouldn't have a dog without it.
So expression was a priority.
Number one priority.
And what would you say was next?
Several of the different head qualities, the back skull, flat filled in back skull, good angles on the skull. We liked a really smooth side of the head. Did not like the depth. Usually with the depth you got the loose lip line and you got sort of a dumb look. So the head qualities, everything about the head was very important.
Okay. Talk to us a little bit about temperament.
I really believe that temperament is inherited, and I would not breed a dog that does not like to show, a dog that doesn't keep their ears up all the time when they're at home. And they have to be a strong, bold dog to be a good show dog because there's going to be chairs knocked over, grooming tables that fall over with the dog on it. So they have to have a good temperament if they're going to be a good show dog.
And if yours didn't show?
We gave them away when we came out of the ring.
She's not kidding. She did. Okay.
And like I said, we wouldn't breed them because that's an inherited trait. It's showmanship. They have to be sold on themselves in order to sell themselves to the judge.
Okay. Your mentors, it sounds to me like you were kind of feeling your way along, but there must have been some mentors.
Probably it would be Steve Field. He was very down to earth with his advice, and he was very easy to follow. He wasn't that scientific. It was like, if you want a rooster that has a certain thing, you breed to roosters that have that, And so that was very easy for us to follow. So I would say Steve Field.
Okay, and what was your relationship with him like? Did you go there often, or?
Yes, we did. He lived in Nebraska, and we were in Missouri at the time. But it wasn't that long of a trip, and so we would go out there and sit in his living room and talk for hours. And he always had a box full of pictures that we could go through. And it was amazing that he could remember dogs that he had seen years before and tell you exactly what that dog was like.
So let's see, Joyce. What was, let's see, Clarion's Light Up the Sky?
I don't believe I ever saw Light Up the Sky.
The blue dog,
No,
Judy's.
no, I don't believe I ever saw him. No,
Okay.
just pictures.
Okay, I'm trying to think some other ones from way back. Breeze Along.
Oh, he was beautiful. He was my picture of what a collie should be like. I was in Ohio at the specialty, and George Horn walked into the ring with him. And when I saw him, I knew that is what a collie should look like. And I always bred with that picture in my mind.
Can you describe him to us, would you?
Very elegant, very masculine, very balanced, beautiful expression, just lovely, lovely coat, and this, hey, look at me, I know I'm the best attitude.
Okay. What other dogs stand out in your mind?
Probably my favorite bitch was Champion Morna's Evening Breeze. She made that beautiful picture and beautiful expression. And again, she knew that she was a good collie.
Okay. As far as your own dogs, tell us about Lierre's Amazing Grace. What was she like, and what was it about her?
Okay, we saw her at a puppy match. I think we might have been judging the match in Michigan. And we saw her and, of course, tried to buy her immediately. And I guess we were in a long line of people wanting to buy her. She was beautiful. She had beautiful head, beautiful expression, body, coat, just a lovely dog. You couldn't fault her. And was not for sale. And so we gave the owner a deposit and said, whoever you breed her to, she's so great. Whoever you decide to breed her to, we want a puppy from her. And that's how we ended up getting True Grit.
The power of the bitches. Tell us a little bit about after you moved to Chicago. When was that?
That would have been about 69.
Some of the dogs that were there that you incorporated into your breeding program.
Okay, well, we used Enterprise and his son that Morty Runge had.
That's coming attraction.
And we bred to Vivian Jabet's dogs, and we bred to Joyce Weineman's dogs.
Okay. And we're talking pre-grit now.
Yes.
What ones were your special ones during that time?
Well, we went back to Steve Field and we bought Parader's Top of the Hill.
What was he like?
A beautiful, beautiful expression on the dog, very soft. And he had a long neck, which some of the Parader dogs didn't have. We only had him for a year before he died, and we got very few litters from him, but he was a beautiful dog. Probably would have gone on to been quite a sire. The different breeders that had been to Steve's and had seen this dog, he stood out to everyone. And that's how he got his name, Top of the Hill. He didn't have a name yet, but everybody was talking about the dog, you know, the one up there on the top of the hill. And so that's what we named him, Top of the Hill.
And he carried down? Did he produce for you?
He produced bitches for us. We didn't get any stud dogs from him, but we produced bitches from him, and then these later were bred to Grit.
Okay. And somewhere along the line, you had a white dog that was the first Best in Show winning
That
white.
was back for a little bit more touch of Brandlin to bring back the elegance. We didn't want to lose the elegance. And that was Edith Levine's male that we bred to. And we got First Frost, and he was the first white collie in the United States to go Best in Show.
Whatever happened to him?
Well, he jumped off of the doghouse and injured himself and died. But his mother was not that good of a quality, that even though he himself was very good, that we did never breed to him ourselves, you know.
So his mother wasn't Amazing Grace? Huh?
No.
Okay.
And we felt like if we used him, some of the puppies would look like his grandmother did. So he wasn't used.
What about from Enterprise? What did you get?
I got a beautiful bitch, Champion Twin Creeks Drummer's Fancy, one of my all-time favorite bitches
What was
I've
she
ever
like?
seen. A little long in body, nice heavy coat on her, very, very elegant, long, lean head, beautiful skull, stop, muzzle, eye, and ears right up on top of her head.
Did she produce for you?
We sold her, and she was never bred right.
Okay. Does make a difference, doesn't it? What about Scrumptious?
The Holy Terror Scrumptious. She almost had too much coat. She did most of her winning when she was not in full coat.
Really?
She just dripped in coat, yeah. And we lost her fairly young. I don't believe we ever got any puppies from her.
Really? And was it she that was opposite at CCV?
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm, under Steve Field.
Oh, okay. Okay. The chem. Tell us what the chem, why it was originated, and what the significance of it was. Now, I understand that the chem, they're trying to revive the chem. But in order to restore it to its former glory, let's hear what it was really like.
Well, it used to be huge. It was the thing for the Midwest. It was the Orrin Chem Memorial Sweepstakes. Had to be a licensed judge to judge it. And I believe there was like 5 or 6 collie clubs in the Midwest, and it would move around from collie club to collie club. But we used to get 150 puppies. I mean, it was the thing to win, was the Chem Sweeps.
And he won that 5 times, I understand.
Okay?
And then weren't you telling me that talking about leveling the playing field here, listen carefully, I've been talking about this all day. Someone actually came to you after you had won it several years in a row and said, it was no longer fair for you to enter, so please don't.
Yeah, that we were running it because nobody would enter it because we were winning it all the time. And so I told him, then you better breed the better dogs.
Okay. So tell us about Grit. What was he like?
Very masculine dog, big, big muzzle on him, beautiful skull, very, very smooth. When you went back the sides of his head, your hand just like slipped back because there was nothing there. Very sound, here I am type of dog, and very, very dominant sire. Mm-hmm. All of his puppies look like him.
That was probably the best deposit you ever made. And Postscript.
Okay, he was a more refined dog than what Grit was. Again, just beautiful head, but a little less head, more refinement to him. Not quite as big a bone, but very elegant dog. Neither one of them carried a lot of coat, but it fit them well. They made a pretty picture. I don't know.
What's what?
P.S. is breeding.
He was Nitty Gritty and Grit.
Oh, Nitty Gritty back to Grit, because Nitty Gritty was a Grit dog.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. We always felt that she was one of his best daughters, and that's why we did that. Okay. Now, we did that breeding, I think, twice. And the first time we got Champion Lot of Grit and Champion Pure Grit, but they were not quite what we were looking for. We really liked them, but not. We knew that her back to him had to be our next stud dog. So we repeated the breeding, and that time we got Postscript.
And he sired, I think, other Grand
He was a postscript, a postscript son. Came out and really was noticed by all the breeders. He was a little lower to the ground. Excuse me. Little lower to the ground and very heavy coated, very elegant, beautiful expression, full round muzzle. But unfortunately, at the CCFA in Chicago, we had Japanese breeders there, and they saw him. And for a year, they kept after us. They wanted that dog, and finally they got him. He only sired like 3 or 4 litters before he went to Japan.
Well, 3 or 4 litters. He sired 23 champions, Joyce.
He didn't have very many litters.
Yeah, he was quite a sire, too. And what about Tough Guy?
Oh, yeah. Love of my life, little tough guy. He was a single puppy and spoiled rotten. Whenever he went to the dog shows, he had to have his blanket and his pillow and his own little X pen. But he was a beautiful dog. Tom liked him. You put him up. He finished as a puppy. And then he also went to Japan. Again, only sired very few litters before he left.
Just 23 champions for him, too. So, okay. Of all the dogs that you bred, which were your favorites?
My favorite would have been one of my last ones, Champion Twin Creek's First Blood, Ramble. Okay. He won the Kim.
Okay.
And he looked very, very much like Grit, except with a lot of coat.
And his
very
breed?
masculine dog. First Blood would have been Tough Guy, and the Tri-Bitch.
No, it wouldn't have been a try.
Shady's a try.
That was Tough Guy's mother.
See, I haven't done this for 15 years. Okay, I can't remember who First Blood's mother is.
And he was also a group winner. How about your dogs in...
He was a Best in Show winner.
Best in Show? Okay.
Multiple Best in Show.
Oh, okay. It's all coming back to her now.
And tomorrow I'll remember who the mother is.
Tell us a little bit about how your dogs fared in all breed competition.
Well, we did quite well in the groups. Usually we showed mostly under the collie judges that would be judging the all-breed shows. But when we got to the groups, we did quite well. We had several Best in Shows.
Okay. Which one would have been your favorite bitch, Joyce?
Probably Scooby-Doo.
Okay.
She was a little bitch and real cute, and probably wasn't quite what a collie should be because she was too cute. But she had beautiful head, beautiful expression, elegant, but a small bitch. But just a little devil that was always doing things to catch everybody's eye, playing with a squeaky toy in the ring and chasing balls in the ring and flirting with the judge.
Okay. How would you describe the ultimate or the best of the Twin Creek dogs? Your picture.
That they make the picture, and that they excel in expression, and that they look like J. Dean Sprieslock.
Okay. So she was true to her picture. It's important to have that picture. What would you say was the best advice that you were ever given?
To look at the quality of your puppies and to cull, not to keep everything.
Okay. So what about culling?
Any little fault that you see in, say, an 8-week-old puppy is going to be magnified as they grow. So if they're down a little in skull, they're going to be down a little bit more when they're grown. If the side of their heads, if you can feel just a little ridge, you're going to feel a bigger ridge when they're grown. So any faults that you find are magnified. For virtues, the look at me and the expression and the way they carry themselves.
Okay. And what's the best advice that you have to give to someone starting out now?
Well, to start out, I would say go to a lot of shows, specialty shows where you'll see a lot of collies, and watch the catalog and pick out the line that you like the dogs from, and then go to that breeder and become friends with them and let them work with you.
What does that look like, Joyce? This breeder working with you?
Well, you go and you help them unload at the shows and you help them groom, but they're teaching you how to groom, and they'll give you tips on how to show the dog, and they'll tell you, now this dog, he's really great because he's got the expression you want, but his rear is not real good, So you point out the good points and the bad points, and then after seeing it and having it pointed out to you, you learn how to see them yourself.
Tell us, Joyce, two breeders that you really think were great breeders.
I thought that Rose and George Solner were great. They had a line, and they never kept more than a very few collies. And I don't know how they did it with few collies, but they consistently, for years and years and years, came up with the same look, the same beautiful dogs, but kept very few dogs. And then I thought George Horn did a very good job of producing dogs over the years, that they looked alike. Quality was just outstanding.
Okay. And two judges that you thought were really excellent.
Boy, luckily, there were a lot of good judges. And we showed under any judge. It didn't matter if they were specialty judge, Aubrey judge, Brandwin judge. A lot of Brandwin judges put us up. Pareto judges. We liked to show under the breeder judges because we felt like they knew what our standard was. Oh, gee. Of course, George Horn, Steve Field, Tim Garrison, Bill Broken. Just so many I can't even think of them. Okay. Luckily, there were a lot of good judges around. The one thing I did want to say that bothered me then was if somebody doesn't win, they always think the judge is bad. And they always think, my dog is prettier than yours. Why did yours win? But yet, whenever their dog wins, then the judge did a good job.
Yeah. Let's see. What else do I want to ask? Let's finish this sentence, and then I'm going to open it up to some questions from the audience. Let's finish this sentence, Joyce, please. My greatest concern for the collie is?
I think it is the lack of breeders of bigger kennels that can establish families for exhibitors to go to breed to, or to buy puppies, to know what they're going to get. There's not much land left. People live in subdivisions. They can't keep a lot of dogs. It seems like money is tighter than it's ever been, so you can't afford to keep a lot of dogs, and there just aren't the big breeders around anymore.
Okay. Well, thanks. I'm going to turn you over to them. But I just want to thank you, Joyce, for your contribution and for being willing to come here today and share it with all of us.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
You have a litter of puppies. What, knowing the strengths of your family, when you're selecting these puppies, what would your selection process be? I mean, how would you go about evaluating a line-bred litter versus an outcross litter?
Well, when you make an outcross, you've made an outcross to pick up something that you need. And so you want to be sure and keep a puppy that has what you need. The only eliminating factor would be any puppies without pretty expression. You would not keep them. But otherwise, you would keep the puppy that picked up what you need. And even if it wasn't a dog that you showed had finished, then you would want to breed it back into your line to bring that back into your line.
Even if it was, I mean, given the fact that this family of dogs we're talking about is very strong in head detail and skull, and that's very important. So say the puppy had the pretty expression, but not quite the skull. Would you be concerned about that if you took it back to your family that had this?
If it's not quite the skull, the degree, it would not concern me because I would be breeding it back into the family where it's very strong. But if it has like the short hock or the well-curved stifle that I went after, then I would also be breeding that into my family. So, yeah, it would depend on the degree of what the fault
eye and the
is.
expression and the eye placement.
And
would be
especially
paramount.
since my line is strong for that, I wouldn't have to worry about it.
Great, thanks.
When Joyce made the comment about if she took a dog in the ring and it just didn't want to show, you asked, what did you do with it? And Joyce says, well, when I came out of the ring, I'd give the dog away. Well, I'm the recipient of 2 of those dogs. And every once in a while, you get a dog that I'm just going to say it had a bad day. And I was lucky enough to be there when that dog had a bad day. And Joyce said, here you go. And I said, thank you very much. Put the dog in the car, and I ran home. And I just wanted to thank Joyce for that opportunity.
Well, there were a few of them that finished, but I just didn't want to work that hard. And then, there's some dogs you get that you just have a personality clash with. They don't like you or you don't like them. And someone else they might like. Or the next person figures out the key to that dog, figures out what they're interested in, and is able to get them to show for them. But we just didn't click.
Joyce, you said that you would go to the show when you first started, and you saw something that you liked better and would pick it out. Did you choose just by your eye, or was there a lot of background studying to do that?
When you have your dog at home and you love your dog and you look at them, you think they're beautiful. I think my 2 little mutts are beautiful. But when you get them in the ring next to a beautiful dog, surely then you'll see the difference. You can still love them, but they're not going to win.
When you, like you said, you went to the shows and you'd stand there with your dog in the ring and you'd look at the dog next to you and you'd think, which one would I rather take home? What was it, how did you develop your eye that you could tell these things? Because a lot of people, I think, they just don't have an eye for a dog. And how do you develop it, or do you think it's just naturally born into someone?
I think to see expression is born into you. Either you can see it whenever somebody will come to the kennel, if they're not even a dog person, they would always pick out our best dog just because they looked like a good dog and they were beautiful. I think either you have the eye for the expression or you don't have the eye. But you have to be honest. You can't let your emotions for the dog make you think they're beautiful if they're not.
You obviously owner-handled all of your dogs, really, to their championships, and a lot of people sitting in the room today are also owner-handlers. What tips would you give to people to try and at least approach your level of success?
Okay. Again, go to the shows and watch the different handlers and notice the little things that they're doing, and take your dogs to training classes. And the handlers at the training classes can give you tips. Plus, you'll be more relaxed in the ring, and the dog will be more relaxed in the ring. And go in the ring and have fun. I often played with my dogs in the ring so that they enjoyed it and I enjoyed it.
Currently, The Breeder of the Year award is under review by the CC of A, with talk about possibly altering it or doing away with it. And I just wanted to know, as a multi-recipient of that award, what your thoughts are and what it took for you to achieve that award.
Well, I think it would be wrong to eliminate it. I think that you should celebrate when a person has worked hard and has finished all those champions, bred those champions and finished those champions. I always felt that the reason for the CC of A was promote the breeding of good collies and the showing of good collies. Now, I agree with the rescue. I agree with the ability, the service dogs, but I don't think that the CCVA should forget that they're here to promote the breeding of beautiful collies and the showing of beautiful collies.
And the standard.
And the standard.
One of the, in the discussion of this elimination of the Breeder of the Year award, so I guess my question is, what is a breeder? One of the proposals was that it isn't just number of champions, but that other factors should come into play, like, does the dog have a performance title or a herding title? So, I guess in line with what you're saying, the CCFA is about breeding dogs, and do you think anything else should come into play, or it's the pure breeding and the promotion and the preservation of the standards?
I think for Breeder of the Year, it should be the breeding of champions. Like I said, I think the ability, the agility, obedience, rescue, all of that is great and should be part of the CCFA. But for Breeder of the Year, it's how many champions that you finish that year.
I agree. They can always make another award for that other aspect of it.
Right.
Separate award for best overall?
Yes.
They do, actually. They have it already.
And to have the Breeder of the Year, you work very, very hard for that. It's 24 hours a day just about that you're working to get up to be Breeder of the Year. Now they give an award for, like the top 10 winning collies. Okay, in the past there have been a few collies that because they were pushed at all breed shows with big all breed handlers, they ended up number one. Well, you can't fix Breeder of the Year. Either you bred and you finished those dogs or you didn't. The money is not what's going to get you the win.
One of the things that was on the flyer was I said that we would discuss some breeding principles. So I put these together for Southern Cal, and I'm going to read them, and then we're going to look at them in the context of Joyce's breeding program. Okay?
Okay.
Trust me, Joyce. Okay, principles to breed by. Number 1, look to the dams of the stud dogs. It is the bitch that provides the complement to the sire and determines the distinction among his offspring, both in quality and producing ability.
Well, I definitely looked at the bitch, but I also looked at the grandfather because they're close enough. Now, maybe 5 generations back, it's not going to show up too much. But for the first generation and the second generation, that's what you're going to get.
You're ahead of me here. Wait. Go back. We're going to go back to the dams of the stud dogs. So that nitty-gritty, Amazing Grace. There were lots of grit offspring, or there were a lot of PS offspring, but only some of them had certain mothers that actually brought something to the party, positive to the party. So in Joyce's program, right off the bat, she was looking at for a good dam for a stud dog when she handed that money to Pat Gorka, or is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Forrest, I guess her name is. Okay, number 2, which Joyce wanted to leak here, was look to the grandparents to see the potential of a breeding combination. If the qualities you're seeking aren't there, you aren't going to get them. So, what about that, Joyce? Elaborate a little bit.
Okay, even if you would, in that dog, get the qualities that the grandparents don't have, they're not going to be dominant for producing it. If all 4 grandparents and the father and the mother have the same quality, they're going to be dominant for producing it.
Number 3, evaluate the producing ability of a dog or a bitch by the best offspring they produce. All dogs can produce uninspiring or poor offspring, but very few can produce superior individuals.
Again, that goes back to him being a dominant sire. You want to breed to a sire that is producing the good qualities in a lot of puppies. If he's only produced it in one puppy, perhaps it was the bitch that gave the quality.
Y'all get that? I hear people at the CC of A, there'll be a dog there, and I think, gee, this dog, really has some virtue. And then I'll hear them say, did you see so-and-so's puppy by dog X that didn't place in the puppy class? Who cares about that one? I want to know, can they produce the one that really knocks my socks off and inspires me? Do you know what I mean? Not all dogs can do that. And Joyce, when do you think that shows up in a dog's career?
With ours, we usually knew by the time they were 6 months old if it was there or not.
No, I mean in the actual stud dog's career.
Oh, in the stud dog. I would say he'd have to be bred to like 3 or 4 bitches to see that you're going to consistently get the look that you want.
It shows up pretty fast.
Oh, yeah.
Some people spend years trying to make a stud dog, to make themselves right, that this is my next great producer. Okay, number 4. Don't knowingly introduce problems. All dogs have the potential to produce health problems. Play the odds and breed to dogs that are health checked whenever possible. If you haven't had a certain problem yet, you will if you work with nature for any length of time.
Particularly with the health problems that you can get, it's really rough because so many of them are recessive. You don't necessarily see that you've got it. And then once it's into your line, it'll take years and years to get rid of it. Whereas other faults, a large eye, you're going to see that. But if they've got some health problem, you might not know that for years.
Can be carried along for generations without showing up. But if you know dog X has this certain problem, yeah, they're all going to throw something. They're all going to throw something, but if they're throwing it,
If it's hidden.
Number 5. Be realistic. If there isn't something inspiring in your litter, don't keep anything. The mentality now, because people have 1 or 2 litters a year or 1 litter every other year, then they think they have to keep something because that's what they've got. But that's not going to raise the bar for you.
Well, it's easy to pick the best puppy in the litter, but it doesn't mean that it's a really good dog. It's just the best one in that litter. So you have to not only look for the best in the litter, but be sure that it's what you're going to want and what you're going to want to keep.
And where does it stand quality-wise in relationship to the parents or the grandparents?
So what you're saying, the best of crap is still crap.
Yes. So eloquently put, yes. Thank you. Next. Selection is the key. Be ruthless and remain steadfast to your priorities. That's what Carol Fayback was talking about. Be true to yourself. Be true to your ideal, the picture that you have. It's your picture. You know, it isn't your friend. Don't breed for agreement. Breed for the standard. What else, Joyce, about that? Joyce was a ruthless selector.
Yes, very important. And a lot of people think because you discard a dog, you're turning them loose on the street. You're putting them into a nice pet home where they're going to lay on the sofa and be fed treats. The dog's going to love it. And you're going to move out that dog and have room to keep a dog that's going to win for you in the show ring or breed your champions.
Okay, she's always ahead of me here. Next one. Keep your numbers down. You only need to keep the best, not the most.
Well, that's what I had said, was that one of the important things, one of the important advice that I would give is to cull your dogs. Don't keep too many dogs. You just want good dogs, not a lot of dogs.
This is next. Evaluate your dogs by comparing them to the best there is now and the best of the past, rather than what is winning in the ring today. There's a lot of this, it's good enough to win under certain judges, where it's really like a crapshoot. You want to look at winning under the judges that are well respected, that are knowledgeable, and you want, I'm sure, you want the approval or the admiration of your dog to be from people whose opinion you respect, who are knowledgeable. You know, Joyce said she took her dogs to the shows, and you wanted people to like them, especially certain people.
And even if you didn't win, if ringside thought your dog was beautiful, you had won.
Okay, this is the last one that I have here. You can add to this if you'd like. What ye sow, ye shall reap. Don't add something to the gene pool if you don't want it to show up. That's common sense. I mean, people do breedings. They take, it's more than taking a risk. It's putting yourself at risk. You know, knowingly putting yourself at risk. It doesn't make any sense to me, because whatever you put into this little paper bag and shake it up, it's going to come out. It might not come out the first generation,
Right.
but it's going to show
You're
up.
lucky if it comes out the first generation. Then you can get rid of it.
Questions?